Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday night, and we are all here together, and we are live, and it is time. Well, we're together in different places, but
by some miracle, though, we all made it.
I know. We all came in on 2 wheels, and it is time for Friends in Fiction, and we are live, like I said, and so thrilled to be here with all of you. I am Patti Callahan Henry.
I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Kristin Harmel.
And I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
And this is Friends in Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians, and you, readers. Tonight, we are welcoming Tess Gerritsen. We are so excited. And she is the author of a brand new book just out called The Spy Coast.
But first, just a quick reminder to check out all the fun things going on in our Friends in Fiction community at friendsandfiction.com. There you'll find links to our bookshop.org page where our books and books from all of us and our guests are available at a discount to the Friends in Fiction official book club. Wait, I should have had a comma there. Okay, so consider that I put a comma in there. And then, and Friends in Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa, and to our official email newsletter sign up. So do all those things.
Exactly. So you will also find a link to our Friends in Fiction Writer's Block podcast, a new episode of which drops each Friday. So on last Friday's episode, Ron and Patti talked to Karen Kingsbury about Just Once. And coming this Friday, you will hear the episode where Kristy and Ron talked with #1 New York Times bestselling author Ali Hazelwood about her YA debut, Check and Mate. I'm excited to hear that podcast. So you can listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can find links and more information on our website at friendsandfiction.com.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to check out that episode because there was sort of an embarrassing moment where I talked about something that I had read on the internet about her book, and it was like totally raw. She was like, like that is completely not right. I mean, she was very nice about it, but I was like, cool. Nothing like reading like this was inspired by this. She's like, I don't even know who that is. I was like, cool. That's great. It was like a whole article. It's just totally made up. I was like, great. So check that out. Where she stumbles all over herself with Ali Hazelwood. Fantastic.
Oh, we believe the internet, don't we? Don't we believe the internet? Okay.
Over on the book club's Facebook page, the group is reading Bright Lights, Big Christmas.
I know that author. I know her.
You do in real life?
In real life.
Her hair looks good tonight, too. Have you seen
Sure
it?
does.
Yeah, I was looking pretty draggy ass last night, so I got a blowout when I got to Palm Springs today.
Oh, well, it's the latest New York Times bestseller from our very own Mary Kay Andrews. You can join them for that live online discussion on Monday, November 20th, and don't miss their Friendsgiving celebration tomorrow evening, Thursday, November 16th. Can you believe we are in the holidays already? Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's just been quite a year.
It has been.
Stop. I asked my boys for some Christmas suggestions, and they were lagging, and I counted. I said, it's in 5 weeks. 5 weeks. That's a little panicky.
Yeah.
Right? All right. We have so many fun things going on. Check them all out on the website. But now, without further ado, let's welcome Tess Gerritsen.
Yeah, Tess is an internationally best-selling author who took what I would call an unusual route to a writing career. A graduate of Stanford University, Tess went on to medical school at the University of California, San Francisco, where she was awarded her MD. While on maternity leave from her work as a physician, she began to write fiction. And in 1987, her first novel, Call After Midnight, was published.
It would be just the first of 31 suspense novels that she has written over a 36-year writing career. She also wrote a screenplay, Adrift, which aired as a 1993 CBS Movie of the Week starring Kate Jackson.
Her novels have hit bestseller lists ever since, and her books have been translated into 40 languages with more than 40 million copies sold around the world. With numerous prizes, Publishers Weekly has dubbed her the medical suspense queen.
Her series of novels featuring homicide detective Jane Rizzoli and medical examiner Maura Isles inspired the hit TNT series Rizzoli and Isles, starring Angie Harmon and Sasha Alexander. My sound.
Okay, I found this on the web for us of novels featuring homicide detective Jane Rizzoli and medical examiner Maura Isles, inspired to hit TNT series Rizzoli and Isles, starring Angie Harmon and Sasha Alexander.
I don't even know what to say.
That sounds like it's either Siri or Alexa helping you out there.
Siri thought I was asking about Tess
You
Gerritsen.
guys, this is the first time in 193 episodes that has ever happened.
Oh my God, I'm going to start over.
Her series of novels featuring homicide detective Jane Rizzoli and medical examiner Maura Isles inspired the hit TNT television series Rizzoli and Isles, starring Angie Harmon and Sasha Alexander. And because that isn't enough, Tess is also a filmmaker. She currently lives in Maine. Her new novel, The Spy Coast, was just released earlier this month, and we cannot wait to talk to her about it. And hopefully Siri won't interrupt again. And Sean, can you please bring Tess on?
Hi, Tess.
Hello from Orange County Libraries.
Oh, so happy you're here. All right, we are going to dive right in, my friend. So The Spy Coast is about a woman we truly come to love, named Maggie Bird. She is an ex-spy who has finally found some peace, or so she thinks, in a small Maine town called Purity. As the Starred Review states, Maggie Bird has lived many lives and many lies all across the globe. Finally, she gets to hunker down in the town of Purity with nothing but her chickens and her martini club friends to keep her company. But her past is about to come back to haunt her when someone delivers a dead body to her front door, as one does, as dead bodies might do. Now the past has come back to find her, a past she does not want to revisit, but now must. So, Tess, if this is what The Spy Coast is about, can you tell us what the book is really about?
It's really about retirement and what happens afterwards. As I get older, I start to look at my contemporaries and think, I really wonder what they used to do when they were younger. And I'm also aware of the fact that as we get older, we start to feel it sort of disappear from the world. People don't pay attention to us anymore. They don't ask us about our careers, they almost lose interest in us. So I happen to live in a small town that has a lot of retired spies. And I always wonder about their lives. I always think about the fact that I'm rubbing shoulders with them in the post office. And they look like the little old lady down the street, but who knew what she did when she was in her 30s, but maybe she was defying death in some foreign country. So that was really what it's all about. It's about how retirees we're not done yet. Okay. We have other adventures ahead of us, and we also had a lot of adventures behind us.
I love that.
That's incredible. I love that. Okay, so indulge me while I read a quote from your novel, please. So Maggie says, "That's what we must learn to deal with, our place in a world that sees us as used up and irrelevant. This new generation only looks to the future with little regard for the past and what it could teach them, what we could teach them." So as you mentioned, you were just talking about, it was like you knew this was my question. So thank you for that lovely segue. But this quote seems to tie into the inspiration for this novel, which is, something that you write about in your author's note, and you just mentioned about your small town in Maine. So can you talk to us, if you will, about your inspiration for this novel and, what was kind of that moment where you knew this is what you're going to write about?
Yeah, well, I've known about this for about 3 decades now. When I first moved to Maine, it was 33 years ago. And I'm moving on to a little town, about 5,000 people, right on the coast.
Yeah.
My husband is a doctor, and he opened up a new medical practice. And part of being a doctor is you ask about a patient's history, their occupational histories. So he would ask his new patients, and they were all kind of older people, what did you used to do for a job? And he got this answer, I used to work for the government. And he'd say, what did you do for the government? And they would always say, I can't talk about it. So after this happened a couple of times, we wondered, who are these people? What did they do? And it was a real estate agent who told us they're all retired CIA. She knew. A lot of people in town knew. It was like one of the worst kept secrets in Maine that we had a lot of CIA retirees. And I found out later that I had on my very short street that I was living on then, 2 spies, one on either side.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome. Isn't that something? And then my son's good friend, I was talking to the son's father, trying to arrange a pickup or something for the kids. And something he said, I don't remember what it was, made me think, oh, this is an unusual answer. And I laughed and said, you must be with the CIA. And there was a long silence.
Oh.
And then he said, who have you been talking to? That's when I realized I probably shouldn't have said that. I found out later that he and his wife were married spies during the Vietnam era. So here I am. And as I said, these people are now, they're all gray haired. A lot of them have died off. This was back 30 years ago. And I thought, well, what do retired spies do? Here, you're in a little town, a very safe and innocent town. Do you have cocktail parties? Do you have book groups like everybody else? Do you have friends you can actually talk to about your job? And then I also thought about what is it like to live a life in which a lot of the time you can't tell the truth. What does it do to your psyche? And can you talk to your spouse? So that's how the whole idea came about. It's just retired spies. And I imagined one woman, actually it was her voice that came to me. And it was Maggie saying, I'm not the woman I used to be. And I could hear the grief. I could hear that she was very sad. And I wanted to know, what did she used to be? And that started the book.
Oh,
I love that. So how did your town react to knowing that they were the inspiration for this series?
A lot of giggles. When I talk about it at libraries, at library talks in my town, there's like nodding heads everywhere. Oh yeah, we knew that. And then they would come up and tell me little stories. Like one man said, oh, there was a guy who was a CIA agent and then he got Alzheimer's and he won't stop talking about it.
Oh no.
And then of course, Maine was, people in Maine we're very proud of our state. And I heard somebody say, so the really bad spies retired to Bethesda, the middle retired to Florida, and the cream of the crop came to Maine. So,
that's hysterical. There's like an echelon of CIA retirees. That's amazing.
But what I was most interested in also is, why did they move there? It's a beautiful place, but it's very cold in the winter. What drew them there? And I've heard a number of explanations from gossipers around town. The real estate agent claimed, and I don't know if it's true, that they have a retirement magazine that mentioned our town, and I don't know if that's true. I've heard that some people went there because they felt it was a safe place, far from any nuclear targets. Maine was also a location for safe houses. When they wanted to hide people away, they just send them up north. And Yankees, we're pretty good at minding our own business. I think that they felt that they could hide out there and nobody would really bother them.
We are not good at minding.
Not in the South. No, we would be just all in your business.
Knocking on the door.
I have to say this before we move on, but we have something we have a neighbor like beside us that has like a similar background to this. And every now and then I'm like, are they listening? Like, can they hear what we're saying? Like, do we know? Like, this is, I'm concerned.
Now, Tess, our work as authors is so tied to our lives. So sometimes in obvious ways, like your small town in Maine, and sometimes in more subtle ways. So I want to talk about your life as an author. From physician, which I think, we've done, what did we say, 193 episodes now? I believe that you're the first physician-trained author we've had on the show that I can think of. But I mean, that's an unusual career path to novelist. So I've read, and also we said in the introduction, that it all began when you were pregnant. Can you take it from there? How did you make that leap from being a physician to being a novelist?
Well, I actually wanted to be a writer when I was 7 years old. And
Wow.
I told my dad, and my dad, being a very conservative father, said that's no way to make a living.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to medical school because I like science, and I thought medicine would be a good fit. But that writing bug, and you are all writers, you know what it is. You can't get rid of it. It's just a part of your personality. And even when I was working as an intern, 80 hours a week, and I would be on call, I would write a page in the call room in the hospital. So I got my opportunity when I went on maternity leave, and I was really lucky. I have 2 sons who like to sleep a lot.
Oh, lucky you.
It was really fast. They'd be taking their 2 and 3 hour naps, and that's your chance to write a couple pages.
Wow.
So that's when I really got back into it. And then after I sold my first book, I thought, okay, I think I might be able to make it. And then when I moved to Maine, I never got my Maine medical license. I thought this is making, really cutting ties with my medical background.
Well, that's fantastic, though. I mean, but what a great background in terms of informing what you write about. And, I know there has been a lot of content that relates to that in your books, which is fantastic. So, which leads me actually to talking about your series of Rizzoli and Isles, which I always loved on TV, and I love the books. It's iconic. So it's a TV series as well as an immensely successful novel series. And of course, it was also mentioned recently in Only Murders in the Building, which is very cool. I mean, it's
Did you know
pop
that?
culture.
No, I didn't. I haven't watched the second season of that yet. Really? That's cool.
Third season now, Matt, Tess.
Third
Third season, and Paul Rudd is on it. So that's
I'm afraid I'm embarrassed to mention my Hulu account expired. And I can't figure out how to get back onto it.
Well, you're going to have to hear them mention Rizzoli and Isles,
They
right?
mention you, yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how the success of that series changed your life and also how it changed your work?
Well, I don't know if it changed my life so much because, as a writer, it doesn't matter whether your book does well or badly. You still want to keep on writing.
Yeah,
you still want to keep writing.
so true.
I think what it did do, though, was it in a bad way, it forced me more of those books when I had other books that I wanted to write. And that is the downside of a series, right? You get stuck in this box, and nobody wants you to ever do anything out of the box.
Yeah.
So that was the downside. Is I got stuck doing Jane stories, and after a while, I just needed to break out of that. On the good side, though, it's really discouraging to be a writer, and people will say, well, would I have read anything that you wrote? And I don't know what to say, but then I'll ask, do you watch television? Then, there'll be a spark of recognition. Oh, your books were the basis for that TV show. So it emphasized to me how much bigger the reach is of television than our novels.
It's a really good point.
Sadly.
Yep.
So Spy Coast takes us from Malta to Bangkok to Milan to Maine, and each setting feels so unique and fully immersive. As soon as when she meets her love interest, she is in she's in Bangkok, right? She's in Bangkok, and how did you do the research to take us so deeply into everything from the food to the ambiance to the aromas to the waterways when she's going to that meeting on the what do they call it?
Waterway, on that canal.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I was right there with her.
Oh, I know.
In the dark, and I can, and I see the light up there. So how did you do that research? Have you been to those places?
I have been to all those places, but I did not do them as research. I call myself the lifelong tourist. I love to see interesting places. So Bangkok, Istanbul, I've been to at least half a dozen times, and Milan, London, and I'm not sure I've ever actually used any of those in books before. But here I am writing about an international spy, and so I just drew on my memories of places I'd been and loved. And when I think about a place, what comes back to me very often is number one, the food, and number two, the smells. And if you read the book, you'll find out there's a lot of food in this book because that's what I love.
Yeah, I couldn't pronounce anything they were eating in Bangkok,
but it still sounded amazing. Yeah.
I love, and I also love the insights into being a spy, which I guess if you had been a spy, you wouldn't tell us that you'd been a spy. So I don't know. But there's a line from Maggie, one that is obviously about being a spy, but it echoes for all of us. The truth is far more complicated, but when you live in a world of mirrors, the truth is always distorted. Too often, it's what we choose to see while ignoring all the inconvenient bits, the nagging details. We crave clarity and we lie to ourselves. So, is it possible to interview spies, or you just make all this stuff up?
Well, you know what I did, because it is hard to interview them. I know their children, so I get secondhand stuff sometimes. The way I go about this, I was an anthropology major in college, so I'm very aware of different cultures. And I find that the best way to delve into a culture is to read memoirs, is to read people's.
Right, yeah.
What was it like for them growing up? What drew them into this? And there are a number of good memoirs written by retired spies. Not all of them have been vetted, by the way, by the CIA the way they're supposed to be.
You're right, absolutely, yeah.
So they tell you what the stresses are. I find out how tough it is to be married, and there's a high divorce rate. And I think it all has to do with trust. I mean, how far do you trust somebody? So that's my go-to thing, no matter what I am researching. I think when I did Gravity, which was about the space program, I did a lot of astronaut memoirs, just to get the personality. There's a personality type that is attracted to any particular profession.
Did you have a favorite spy memoir that you can recommend?
The names just all went out my head.
I know. As soon as somebody asks you that, you forget.
There is one little fun one. It's called, and I can remember this one because it's easy. CIA 101, I think it's what it is.
Oh.
And he actually was a teacher at Langley, and he just writes about, some of the inside details, a little bit of tradecraft, but also it made me aware that to them it is just a job, and a lot of them are just waiting until they get their pension. And you realize that they're like us in a lot of ways. They're having divorces, they're having marital problems, they're worried about their retirement, and they hate the paperwork, but they have to do it.
Interesting. So Tess, you express your creativity in so many ways. You're a filmmaker. You and your son Josh have made 2 feature-length films. Can you tell us about Magnificent Beast and Island Zero, and how they are part of this greater ability of yours to tell stories from documentary to novel to film?
Well, Island Zero was just a straight out horror film. It was something that we did for fun, and I think it had to do with our being in Maine and the winter and the cold and the isolation of these little islands that are off the coast. So it was pretty much a sea creature monster movie. That was Island Zero. Magnificent Beast, now that was a lot of fun, and that harkens back to my past as an anthropology major. I've always been interested in food, the anthropology of food, and also why there are food taboos in the world. And I was in Istanbul and wanted bacon one day, couldn't get it because it's a Muslim country. And I thought, why would anybody choose not to eat this delicious, nutritious food? That led to my son and I just, going around the world, talking to anthropologists, to, all kinds of pig experts about what is it about the pig that is so special? Why is it forbidden food? And we ended up going back, to people who were Egyptologists, because this goes back thousands of years, to find out if there's an answer for why the pig was chosen as the taboo food.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Do you still eat bacon?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It's terrible because I've met a lot of wonderful little pigs. We did some interviews with pet pig owners, and who, they live with their pigs. The pigs are in the house. The pigs sleep in their bedrooms. They're very clean animals. And I thought, I'm sorry, but I ate your cousin. But it does have to do with the fact it is really delicious and nutritious food.
Good.
I know. So anyway, that movie, to our delight, it showed up on PBS stations across the country.
Oh, great.
That's very cool.
I just love when we're curious enough about something to go find out more. And that's what you did. And I heard from a little birdie, meaning our shared agent, Meg Ruley, that you also played the fiddle. and have Celtic jams at your place. And haven't you also played with one of my favorite authors, Stephen King's band, The Rock Bottom Remainders?
Yeah, I didn't know what what role I had in a rock band. I was just so glad that everybody was so loud they drowned me out.
Oh, that's awesome.
But no, I love Celtic music, and because I live in Maine, where I think 30% of the population has Irish blood, it's easy to find other musicians and who play, to one degree of expertise to another. But that's why it's fun to get together with musicians, good and bad, and teach each other tunes.
I love that.
Right.
I need to
awesome.
dig through the internet and find a recording of you playing.
Yeah, right?
I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song?
Oh, here again, it's titles that always go out of my head. You know what? I can't think of a favorite song right now.
You'll remember as soon as we go off the air.
I'll say Pigeon on the Gate. I love.
Oh,
Okay.
Pigeon on the Gate. Okay. I have to look that
Nice.
one up. But let's talk about your opening lines from each point of view in this novel. You talk about grabbing us and not letting us go, from she used to be the golden girl to we meet by chance to something has died here. And then you add this complex plot and multiple POVs and a page-turning, plot-weaving past and present. We'd love for you to tell us the secret of your writing process.
Yes.
Are you an outliner? Are you a pantser or a plotter?
I wish I knew it. I wish I knew the secret. No, I'm a pantser. And
Okay.
this book was weird in that it ended up being quite complex. And it happened without any outlining. I think I was starting off with a contemporary story, the present day story, and then I would get to a point and think, oh, this is backstory, and then I would just jump into the background. And it just felt like there were certain points in the story where I had to go back and look at what had happened to Maggie, because as I said, the whole thing starts off with her being very grief-stricken, and you don't know why. There's a sadness about her, and I think it just sort of unrolled by itself, and I was led by the characters telling me what happened.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I was so glad towards the end of the book. I mean, I could feel us building towards something, and I was so glad when that something kind of sparked. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I had the feeling that maybe Maggie won't be so lonely in the future.
Yeah, there's one of the Martini Club members. I mean, there are 5 of them. They get together with book group, and they mostly drink, and rather than read the book. But one of them is a tall. Well, you know what? I was imagining Gabriel Byrne. Imagining.
Oh, well, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Who would not fall in love with that man? So that's and he's a professor in the book. He's a retired history professor. So he's not only a CIA person. His cover was academics, and he truly is an academic. So in many ways, this is the man I would fall in love with, even though Maggie has, she has a past, a love affair with somebody else.
And the Gabriel Byrne of your dreams, does he like whiskey too?
They all like whiskey.
They all like whiskey.
They all do. They all like to drink. And in fact, I think a few of the spies that I do know of, it's something they seem to share a lot of.
Your author interview in our weekly newsletter is so wonderful. I read that you write your first draft by hand, and I do something similar. I write a chapter longhand and then type it into my computer and revise it. So do you just do the whole draft in handwriting and then go back and type in and revise?
I do. I try to write the whole draft in longhand, but then I do what you do. I type it in, and but I have to print it out. I have to revise on paper.
Yeah. Me too.
If I revise on the screen, it never comes out very good.
Yep.
And I don't know what it is. There's something about that connection between your brain and your hand and the paper that helps me. Yeah.
Yep.
It's not an efficient way of doing it. I wish I could do first drafts on the screen.
No.
I have to print too. And I will think that a draft is so clean, and then I print it out and I find 11 mistakes per page. And I'm like, what? I just why? I
I
don't
think
understand.
our eyes glaze over the screen, but on
Yeah.
paper, it's like reading a real book. I mean, we all like to have a book in our hand, and so I think you just notice more.
Yeah, and it's easy to rewrite stuff. I think. I mean, you can do it in the margins, and you can cross
Yes.
stuff out. It's just faster.
Yep. Good point.
Okay, so I have to ask you this. A starred Kirkus review noted that there seems to be a series lurking here with these old CIA agents and a small town police chief. So, I mean, is there a series in the works? Can you tell us? I mean, we know that you write about, really secretive people. So who knows?
There is a second book. I'm on the dreaded second draft of it right now.
Oh, okay.
I got to the end of the Spy Coast and I thought, I feel like I'm just getting into these people's lives, and I love the group of them. I mean, her little community, and I love writing about Maine and the police chief, which we didn't even mention her, Joe Thibodeau. She represents a lot of people I know in Maine, just really solid multi-generational people who are there to protect their families, their towns. They're really proud of who they are, but they are local and they are suspicious of outsiders. So there's that conflict of young Joe, who's only in her 30s, and Maggie, who's in her 60s, not really understanding each other, people from away versus people who are local, an older woman versus a younger woman. And that, I think that tension between them was a lot of fun to write about. And I'd love to revisit that.
Yeah.
And I felt Joe's frustration. Like, why won't they let me in? They're not telling me anything. And I'm supposed to be solving, a dead body shows up in her small town, which isn't normal. And all the Martini Club are, knit together like this. And Joe's like, I'm so glad we're going to hear more from her.
Yeah, and plus the state police, she wasn't even allowed to investigate a homicide. And I'm like, what? She has to wait for the state cops to come in?
I'm
frustrated.
I'm falling back on Maine state law, which is local cops do not investigate homicides. That it's always taken away from them by the state police. So that's one of her frustrations too.
I hope they let her in the Martini
Understandably
Club.
so.
Not to tell you what to do, but
Their opening is there. I think there's going to be like a little bit of, okay, Joe, we're going to trust you, and then she starts to trust them, and it just feels like it would be a fun group.
I like it. Well, Tess, we have a whole lot of live questions rolling in. People are really engaged. They're excited to be listening to you. So I'm just going to grab a couple of quick ones. One is from our friend Sharon Carlson Person, who says, a few of your books have just terrified me. Do you ever scare yourself with such dark thoughts?
I don't. I'm really a very happy person, so it's not as if I walk around with dark thoughts all the time. The only time I've scared myself was, I think there was a scene in The Surgeon where something came to me that was unexpected. And the reason it's hard for us to scare ourselves is we're in control, right? You can't tickle yourself either. It's very hard. So I think that's why we don't scare ourselves.
That's a good point. Kristy,
I can't make myself cry. I feel like we have all their friends that'll say, like, I know that I nailed that scene when like I cried, and I can't make myself cry. So it's always shocking to me when someone will be like, oh, I cried 7 times. And I'm like, really? Like
we're in control, right?
Yeah.
It makes me feel better. I was afraid I was just dead inside. So that's
it might be, Kristy. I don't know. Kristy, will you ask one more live question?
Yes. Francis Scott wants to know, Tess, do you ever miss practicing medicine?
I miss practicing medicine when there is a mass catastrophe. When something bad happens in the world, you think, why am I at my desk making stuff up when somebody needs us? But you know what? It's been 33 years since I was a doctor, so I would probably just be dangerous.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, and I also have to say, you can't overlook the good you do in the world by reaching people with books and engaging people in reading and presenting other viewpoints. Like, that is a very important service too. Mm-hmm. Being a doctor is important, but I think touching people's hearts is really important too.
Well, I think also there's an educational aspect to our books. Yep. I mean, I love to teach people about things that they never even thought about before.
Yeah.
So, yes,
absolutely.
Kathy, will you grab one, and then we will?
Yeah. Somebody is asking, whether you took any writing courses in college.
I took one fiction writing course in college, but that was it. I think the best education is to read other authors, is to just grow up being a major reader. And I know there are people that, get MFAs and go to college and get degrees of that. I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah.
When young people ask me, what should I study if I want to be a novelist? My answer is always, pay attention to your own life, live your life and fall in love and, get a job, because that is what is going to fuel your imagination.
Did any of you guys take a writing class, a fiction class in college?
Not till after. No.
I never took a fiction class.
I took a few short story writing classes in college, and I was like, I am terrible at this. I will never write a book. And in fact, I was cleaning out my old closet, and I had this huge file of all my old short stories. And I was like, oh my God, if anyone saw these, I would be done. I would be through. No one would ever publish me again. This is horrific. So.
I took one short story writing class in college too, just one. And it was such a bad fit. It was just a professor who kind of wanted everybody to write in a particular voice that was his voice. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that doesn't serve anybody very well. I think you have to be encouraged to find your own.
I've talked to so many authors who took a writing course and were told that they had no talent.
Yeah.
And then they went on to write bestsellers. Yeah. So I think that this just seems to happen all the time. You're told, you'll never make it. And then they turn around and sell books. So
yeah, good point.
Yeah. I majored in journalism, but I never took the fiction writing classes. And when I was a journalist, the managing editor at my paper told me I would never be a writer because I didn't have a distinct voice in my writing.
Oh, it's crazy.
And I didn't take one because Tess was a nurse. So I didn't take one either.
I didn't get that. Did you try again?
It keeps thinking I'm saying SIRI when I'm saying TESS. We're going to move on. All right. We have one last question for you, but we want to remind all of you out there to head over to friendsandfiction.com to find out more about our podcast and to sign up for our newsletter. You guys have got to read Tess's interview this week. It is so interesting, and you are missing out if you don't read the Q&As. Subscribing is totally free, just like our podcast. So now one last question. I'm afraid to say your name. It seems to follow your own motto, which is no matter how old we are, there are always adventures ahead for us. Can you tell us what's ahead for you and where our listeners can find you on the road or online?
Well, once I get home, I'm going on to my own adventure. I always go back every winter to this lovely island called Bonaire. Yes.
I know where that is.
Because it's great for scuba and snorkeling. That's my yearly adventure. And then after that, I gotta finish this book.
That's awesome.
So every book is an adventure, isn't it, ladies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
It absolutely is.
Tess, this has been amazing. We have loved talking to you. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for coming. And we bow to you.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, thank you, ladies. This is probably one of the most fun interviews I've ever had.
Oh, nice compliment.
Do you want to take us on the road
or
what?
Have we earned our way into the Tess Gerritsen Martini Club? Can we be part?
Yes, absolutely. If we get together, it's martinis all around.
Yes.
How about Bonaire? Do we get to go to Bonaire? No, I'm kidding. Good night, Tess. You have been amazing. Good night.
Thank you so much, Tess.
Bye.
All right. And to all of you out there, please make sure to check out the Spy Coast. And don't forget, you can find all of our back episodes on YouTube. We will be back next week for our Thanksgiving special. We have mystery guests that even we don't know about. We each chose a mystery guest, and we're going to be surprised on air. It's such a fun episode, and we can't wait. But first, we have an after show tonight, so meet us there in a couple minutes. Thank you for being with us, and have a wonderful week, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.
gosh, you guys, I had like 10,000 other questions. Kathy, are you leaving?
Yeah, I gotta go, but I
miss
love the
you.
show. It was fun.
It was fun.
Y'all next night.
Fine.
Bye,
Have fun
Kathy.
tonight.
Good luck.
Even we say hi.
Bye. Golly, she is fun. I felt
Yeah.
like we could have asked another 20 questions to her.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to hear more about her music. But now I
she's
want to talk
great.
about you guys. So much has been happening in the last
Yes.
weeks. Mary Kay's gone because she's on tour, but she finished a novel while touring, while teaching. That was
Yeah.
crazy.
Can't
Yeah.
even fathom that.
I
Like,
know.
wow.
Yeah.
So, Kristin, what have you been up to? And what do you, and can you tell us your mystery guest for next week? No, I'm kidding.
I'm not telling you my mystery guest, no, but you were going to love my mystery guest. I just know it. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to see who you two have invited. Yeah, I've had a crazy busy few days too. I just flew in from Richmond right before the show. So, Patti, I only sat down about a minute before you did. So we were all kind of coming in hot on two wheels tonight. But yeah, it's been great. We went to an Orlando Magic game this past week, which was super fun. That's our local NBA team. That was Noah's first Magic game, and we had a great time. And I think we're going to be going back to lots more. So we're NBA fans now. Who knew?
Who knew that was
knew?
something? Have you been working on your new novel?
Oh yes, every single day. Yep. And I mean, it's coming along, but it's still a long way from being done. And after the first draft is done, man, am I going to need to do some major cleaning up. This one is difficult to get on the page, but I can see it taking shape. It's just I need to get to the finish line.
What are you doing for
know what?
Thanksgiving?
I think I will. What am I doing? We are gonna have it here at my house, so
Okay,
it'll be fun. How about you?
We are going to be here in South Carolina with about 15 family members.
Oh wow, great.
I haven't, just getting back, I haven't planned any of it yet, but I will. This weekend, I am in Nashville for Writers Fest.
Oh, great.
And then I will figure Thanksgiving out. So,
cool.
Yeah,
How
a lot
about you,
of people.
Chris?
How about you, Chris? Yeah.
Yeah, so we're having both families at our house, which is going to be really fun, and we're very excited. I cannot wait.
Who's your mystery guest?
You're so
telling
tricky.
me that? My gosh. No, I tried really hard to not plan too many events in November and December.
Yeah.
And usually I say that and I do it anyway. And then I feel very stressed the whole holiday season. So I'm kind of proud of myself. But that being said, if there's anyone in the area, I have a signing on Saturday from 11 to 1 at DG's in Morehead City. And then on December 1st, I'm going to be at the Raleigh Junior League. They have like this huge, I don't know the word for it, but it's like this huge shopping extravaganza.
Like a Christmas holiday thing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I'm speaking at it, which will be really fun. So anyway, I'm excited. So if anyone's in the area, come see me. But
can you believe we're here talking about this?
no, it just goes so fast. But so
But
how
it's
was Hawaii?
hilarious.
I mean, I feel like you're like burying the lead here.
Right?
It was amazing. I got to spend 10 days with my daughter and my little ones, and then a week teaching. And I don't, as you know, usually teach. That's not I wasn't a teacher.
Just us.
Yes. We learn from you all the time. But
I doubt
yes.
it. I really doubt it, unless you learn how to freak out from me. But
We do that all on our own.
That's okay. I teach the masterclass in that, Patti.
I teach. I'm the understudy for the freak out. And so I co-taught with Adrienne Brodeur, who we've had on the show, but it was the Kauai Writers Fest. And I have to tell you, if those of you listening are, wanting to go to a writer's workshop kind of thing, I couldn't even believe the talent there. I mean, they had agents and editors and the guy who's like the man who was the premier writer on The Hero's Journey, Christopher Vogler, he was there. So it was amazing. And part of me wanted to go to all the classes, but alas, I had to teach a class, not go to a class. Kathy taught a master class on women's fiction. And then I taught with Adrienne, and it was called Inspiration to Publication. And we went all the way through in a much more. But, some of our favorite guests were there, Jean Kwok and Angie Kim and Christina Baker Klein and Paula McLean. And all of them were teaching something different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Reading.
That's
That's
incredible. I
great.
can't even
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So did the students actually write when they were there? Like, did they produce writing based on what was in your class, and like did you critique it? Like, how did that all work? What was that interaction?
Yes. So what we would do is teach a subject like character development.
Okay.
And then give an exercise and
Okay.
then give them like 10 minutes to work on it. And then people would volunteer to read or not. Some
Okay,
never
okay.
read. And then after they read out loud, we didn't let the rest of the class chime in. Adrienne and I would chime in about,
Oh, okay.
and yes, so it was both. We would do exercises that were just for development and some that were,
Okay.
quote, generative for their work, like working on whatever they were working on. So each day had a subject, and each day we had exercises. I'll tell you my favorite one, and then we'll all go eat our dinner. My favorite one was we were doing character development, and Adrienne and I were trying to find an exercise. We know you and the three of us, and Kathy, we talk about this all the time. You try to get to, what does my character want? What does my
Yeah.
character really, really want? So we had their character, and some were writing memoirs, so themselves, go to a psychic, and they only got to ask one question.
Ooh.
What would that question be? And write a scene about it. And so many people said, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was the one question they would ask. And now I know what my character really,
That
really
is
wants. Isn't that
so
fascinating?
interesting. What a great
love that.
question.
So I was
That's
thinking to
really
myself, like, what
Wow.
is the one question I would ask?
What a great way to narrow down character motivation.
Yes,
Like
what did your
to
character
force
really
yourself to
want?
think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go do that in the book. I just
Me too.
my
I'm thinking
agent.
about it
I'm
right
gonna be
now.
I
like,
know, I'm thinking about it too.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna
what
need
would
that
she
back.
say?
Yeah,
And of course, what they want is different than what they need. So,
Yes,
Sure.
that's right.
Anyway.
just like us.
So that's
Yeah.
what we did. But I got to tell you, that travel home from there, and you did it this year too, Kristin. That Hawaii back home is brutal.
It sure is. It's so hard to adjust back. I was talking to my attorney the other day, my entertainment attorney, who lives in LA and who had just been in Tokyo, and he said it was a 16-hour time
Oh my
difference,
gosh.
and he was only there, I think, for like 5 or 6 days.
How do you
And
do that?
I know. And then we were on the phone the day he got back, like about something. And I was like, how are you even functioning right now? I was very
Megan and
impressed.
I were playing this game, like, how far away in hours is such and such? And I think
Yeah.
we figured when we were in Hawaii, the furthest time zone was Australia plus 22 hours.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Wow.
wow. I just can't even-
Almost always it's the next day, almost 24 hours later.
I
We're like,
think
how about Tahiti? How about America?
I saw a post from, I think it was Lisa C. I think that's who it was today. I don't even remember where she was flying. But she mentioned that wherever she had gone, she had just entirely missed, I guess it must have been yesterday. She missed Tuesday because like whatever the flight
Yes.
was, like she went the direction that like went forward in time sort of. So she like literally just missed a day. And I just thought like, how strange. Like it's not like you
It's
lost
strange.
24 hours, but you kind of did. What a weird experience.
Time is a construct.
Yeah. Yep. Time
very
is a construct.
strange.
Good
Time
point.
is a
Yep.
construct.
Yep.
And on that very, very deep note,
We're so deep, you
I
guys.
know,
It's
time is
just-
a construct,
yeah.
people. You guys are awesome.
Have a
Missed
good night.
y'all. Glad to see
I
you.
know.
All right.
Love you guys.
See you
Love
next
you.
year.